Welcome to My B2B Coach, session number 3 of 5 tips. Today, I'm privileged to have Byron McFarland, one of my trusted advisors for a year, with me to share his 5 tips. Welcome, Byron, and why don't you tell us a little bit about the McFarland Group first, and then let's start hearing about your 5 tips you want to share today.
Hey, John, thanks for the invitation. At the McFarland Group, we're really providing guidance to business owners in 3 particular areas. One is the problem of how to get out of my company for optimum value. The second is how do I attract and retain talent? And the third is tying that talent to your strategy. And I've been providing guidance to owners since the late 80s. So I've seen a few problems and realized a few exits.
Excellent.
And the number one thing that I think that we do with our clients is give them the clarity that they need to act with confidence, because the work that we do tends to be fairly complicated, and clients need to learn the language of the business that we're in order for them to actually feel confident they can act. And so I came up with these 5 tips based on what I find to be the most significant problems that business owners face when considering their exit. And the first is knowing your number. And what I mean by your number is, how much would you need to receive net after tax, net after expenses, net after paying your key employees their incentives and debt in order for you to be financially independent in the aftermath? The reason that this is important is that I've found from my experience that knowing your number creates the confidence so that you can actually make decisions as to whether an offer is legitimate and should I consider it, or do I have more work to do? And then further allows you to plan your exit and maybe get a sense of the market timing, whether the timing's good for you or bad. So knowing your number, I find to be key for business owners in their initial plans. The second tip would be know the approximate value of your business. And when I say approximate value, I mean that any business that isn't being sold and you haven't cashed the check is an approximate value. So there are services out there that will provide you guidance on valuation, whether it be by a certified public accountant or some other consulting firm, and get a sense of what your value is. And the benefit of that is it allows you to understand how much more work you have to do. And when you know your number, you can compare your number to your business value to see how reliant you are on the value of your company for you to realize financial independence. Which leads me to my third tip, which is know the terms of payment for your transaction. And the reason I say the terms of payment for your transaction is that not every transaction is the same. If you're selling to an outsider, say a strategic buyer, the terms of payment of that transaction will be predominantly in cash, and maybe some of the sale price will be held back either in the buyer's stock or in a note from that the seller holds onto. If you're selling it to management and you haven't done any planning, chances are that transaction is going to be exchange the stock for a big note. And then you're going to get 10 equal payments until that note is paid off. So knowing the terms of your transaction can help you understand how much risk you would be taking in selling your business to a particular buyer. So know the terms of payment for your transactions so you can manage the risk. The next would be then to inventory all the resources that you have available to help you realize financial independence. Your building and your building rent, your 401k, stocks, bonds, other investments that you have. And then inventory all those assets and have the financial advisor that you're working with incorporate them into your financial model so that you can accurately illustrate the reliance that you have on your business. So by knowing all the resources that are available, it might actually give you a sense of security that you're not as far away from your exit and financial independence number as possible. I find that the most common mistake the business owners make is they underestimate the value of their other resources, particularly their business. And then the last tip I have is usually the most surprising to business owners is know how you're going to provide for healthcare continuation after the sale. What I find is the most common problem the business owners face around healthcare is they get used to receiving world-class healthcare because they're the boss. And they have this group insurance plan that provides them with access to a medical network of hospitals and physicians. that they and their family have gotten accustomed to. And then they sell their business and they lose that coverage after 18 months. And now they're in the Affordable Care Act. And that's quite a surprising reality for people, because then there isn't anything they can do about it. They were in COBRA for 18 months and now they're essentially in the free market, and they have never been in the free market. They've always been in a privileged arrangement with the group plan. So know how you're going to pay for your health continuation after you sell. And quite often in management sales or ESOPs, we'll embed the benefit of paying for health insurance or continuing health insurance until Medicare eligibility. So there's my 5 tips, John. Really appreciated the opportunity to share this with your audience.
Yeah, those are great tips. And a person that used your services to help me sell my business, it made a huge difference knowing my number and understanding my resources. So I'm a big believer in those. One that I don't believe did come up, I sold it quite a long time ago. When did healthcare start to really hit your world when you started thinking about that? And what, of a 50, 55-year-old is planning on selling, like, what are you asking them to budget for healthcare?
Well, actually, it depends on who the buyer is for their company, John, and that if you're planning to sell your company to either an ESOP or your managers, you can include the continuity of your health insurance plan until you're eligible for Medicare. And the kind of the promised land for health coverage for business owners who are selling is get to Medicare, because then you're back in that Cadillac standard. You can get complete control of who your providers are, and you don't have to worry about networks and all that. And you definitely have to worry about the Affordable Care Act and the availability of the coverage and which doctors are included. So we primarily are looking for ways to allow the owner to stay in the company plan as long as possible. Now, you sold your company to a large organization, and they asked you they encouraged you to stick around through incentives, and then you were allowed to stay in their health insurance plan, and then eventually you left after you kind of wore yourself out on meeting their expectations. I don't find many owners are able to stay with their buyer after they've sold their company. Right. And so continuing health insurance when you're selling to outsiders is a little dicier than would be for doing management or an ESOP. So it's probably more prevalent when we're selling to management or ESOP than it would be under the circumstances that you sold your company, John.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And if somebody was just trying to put together, how do they start putting together their number? Like, what are some of the things that go into creating a number?
Well, you need to go to your PFS and get clarity on what you have, and which is all your assets. And once you do that, then you can give that to your financial advisor. And then you need to look at your P&L and uncover all of the personal expenditures that are buried in your P&L. Country club, automobile insurance, travel, meals and entertainment, sporting events, season tickets to football, basketball, hockey, baseball, College World Series, whatever it is. Really evaluate all of the expenditures that are provided to you by the company. We call that your ODE, Owner's Discretionary Expenses. And we need to reveal those, because the nature of those expenses could go from being legitimate business deductions as entertainment or business conferences or transportation to now all of a sudden a personal expense. And the price of paying for those expenses with after-tax dollars is near double the price of paying for them with pre-tax dollars. So the impact on your personal consumption of not accurately identifying your discretionary expenses could adversely affect the duration of the quality of your lifestyle. And you could burn through your principal trying to maintain your life, thinking that you were just cruising along doing okay. So
it is so true. Those things do add up, and they're kind of hidden in the company. And when you're out on your own, they're very visible when that credit card statement comes.
Yeah. And then that encourages them to form a consulting company or get into another business.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, I appreciate you sharing your 5 tips. They are fantastic tips that business owners need to hear. So appreciate it. Wishing you a great, May 1st here, great day here in Omaha. Wishing you a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.